My name's Brian, and we've been part of SBC for probably 2 and a bit years. I think we started at Yarram when they kicked off. I think we went to the first service. I believe so, anyway.
Yeah, I think so. And my name's Jo, and obviously been there the same amount of time.
Geez, where did I start? So, I was born and raised in Narre-Warren, so I was born in Dandenong. So, mum and dad, as I remember as a kid, was a happy home. I don't really have a bad memory of I suppose growing up in that time, but I think at the age of 5 I actually lost my father. So he was killed in Ash Wednesday, the bushfires. So that really kind of sent, I suppose, my world into a turmoil as well. So at 5 you kind of go, well, what's all this about? And it was, probably the start, I suppose, the journey, and mum being a very faithful Christian lady, never really pushed it upon us, but really prayed. And as we got older, and obviously working through that trauma, I wouldn't say I was out of control, but I certainly wasn't, didn't have a faith as such. But mum was always faithful in caring for my brother and myself. So I think that that was really, I suppose, cementing, my journey. And I think losing my dad was how do I connect with the Heavenly Father, and how do I what's all that about? And going through my teenage years, really lost. Didn't do well at school. Was just kind of lost in the system. So from there, I think I got to year 10, and I remember teachers saying I'll never amount to anything. I'll probably end up in prison, that kind of thing. And I wasn't I wasn't into crime or anything, but I was just a rat bag. So I think that from there I left school and got into a pre-apprenticeship and started TAFE and got into bricklaying, and obviously that is just a trade on its own that's pretty hectic, with a lot of broken people in the trade. So I worked for a number of guys that were raging alcoholics, drug users. So that was at the 16 I was exposed to a lot of that, and in particular alcohol partook in that, partaked in that? Partook in that. So that kind of from 16 to I think 18, I was pretty much drinking every day after work, and it was just a normalisation, I suppose, because of the surrounds that you're around. And I think that from there, I remember one time coming home. It was a Friday and it was an end of a build, so we'd been drinking from the afternoon. And I was intoxicated massively, and my boss at the time, who was also intoxicated, drove home and drove me home. And I got to was at the front door at home. I was 16 and a half, 17. Mum wasn't home, so I ended up just passing out the front. So mum came home and found me passed out, blood out of my nose because it was so cold. Mum's faithfulness in prayer, she prayed for both my brother and I for our whole life, and I think that was, I suppose, a turning point. I suppose not a calling, but I suppose just God knocking on my heart. And I was, from probably 16 to 18, I got into surfing. I was riding motorbikes, I was doing all that kind of stuff, and then working as well. And then I got to 18 and I was kind of going to church and not going to church. I was more hanging out at youth group. That was probably what you would say. And there's a really cool bloke there, Jeff Marsh, just bloke that's had a hard life, was covered in tats, and it was just, he was just so genuine with stuff. And I would go to church and I'd rock up late for the night service, hang out the back, and then nick off. And so that was, I suppose, the start of the journey. And I was probably still, in a bad way, and struggling with grief and all that kind of stuff. And I remember, going surfing one day and had a bit of an experience driving there, and being, I suppose, 18 and reckless. I drove everywhere pretty fast and reckless. And then coming home, and I can't really remember, but it was certainly either going there or coming home. It was like, just really felt a sense of God saying, like, you gambling with your life, do you really want to put your mum through that again? Like, loss of a son plus a husband. And I remember this night service, and it was, the pastor was talking and talking about the love of Jesus, and Jesus died for us, and all the the grief and stuff can be taken away. It was put on the cross, and it was like, you need to confess in Jesus. Who wants to get baptised? And this is at a Baptist church that you don't just baptise. There's a whole process with the Baptist church. But it was just like, let's do it. And there was like 3 of us that put our hand up, and this is at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. So it was like, let's fill the tub. So this was filling the tub at 7:30, 8 o'clock. So it was cold, it wasn't hot. And I'm ringing my mum, and I can't even remember if it was on a landline or a mobile. It must have been, it was when mobiles first came out, I can't remember. But, hey mum, I'm getting baptised. Do you want to come up to church? Like, literally within the next half an hour. Ryan, you can't do that. There's a whole thing you got to go through for a baptism. Mum, I've given my heart to Jesus. Do you want to come or not? So it was that kind of. So that was from there. Like, I remember being dunked and baptised and coming out and speaking in tongues. And AJ, my friend, we're out the back and we're just talking in tongues. And that was, I suppose, where I gave my heart to the Lord. And then from there, it was a journey.
So I grew up in England, was the daughter of a Navy lieutenant, fly lieutenant, and so moved around a little bit. Then before my sister was born, Dad came out the forces, and we did it tough. I didn't grow up in a wealthy family, but Mum and Dad sacrificed everything so we could have whatever we wanted. We learnt musical instruments, we got to go on school trips, they'd do what they could. In my mind, it was never good enough because all my mates were going off around Europe and we went to Wales and things like that. But, looking back on it, they sacrificed absolutely everything, and were really keen to grow family. So Dad was rarely ever at home for dinner because he had meetings at work and worked for the local council, so they insisted we always have breakfast together. So I grew up having breakfast together with the family, and a Bible story was always read from the children's Bible every morning without fail. Even up to 15, 16, when I left school, we were still having breakfast together. Mum and Dad went to church from, it would have been about 5 or 6, I think, when they started going to church. And we went to the Sunday school and then moved house, and they found another church which had a good youth group, ran a youth club and a youth night which had raves every Friday night. We were back in the early 90s. That was a cool thing to do back then. They'd taken over a really old building, made it their own. It was well known in the community for being very, very on trend, very cool, very the place you wanted to be. And these were people that came to my house for dinner because Mum and Dad liked to invite everyone around for dinner. Christmas was always extra food, extra presents, so that anybody who was on their own came around for, you're not staying on your own, you're coming to us. There was a lot of dealing with, this is the public persona, this is the private persona of family, which never married well in my head. Just, that's how my mum had been brought up. And so that's what she did. There was never any, I don't think, any malice in it, never any intention to hide things or anything, but that's what it appeared like. You never saw Most people never saw the side of my mum and dad that I saw. They couldn't have loved us harder if they tried, as I say, and they always sacrificed everything, but I had a very rocky relationship with my mum. Very, very, she could be very emotionally manipulative without intending to be. And yeah, the two of us never saw eye to eye. Moved out when I was 17. Went back home in the early 20s because I was broke, but, moved out. I left school at 15, 16, and went to work full time so that I could afford to do what I wanted, buy a car, drive, work, party. That was it. Still was involved in everything that was going on at the church. Still going to the youth group, still going to the raves every Friday night. My best friend was a strong Christian, had very strong faith and would keep me in line. And there were three of us that were always together. To a point where one ended up in hospital. We went out for a drink and the bloke at the bar said, "Where's the third musketeer?" So we were well known together. We were well known to party hard. We'd party, sleep in the car, go to work the next day. And got involved with people that probably shouldn't have done. Craved that love and attention. Ended up in some very messy relationships, experienced stuff that you wouldn't wish people to experience, and used alcohol as a support. And then one of the youth leaders said, "Why don't you come along to this conference with us? It's up in Birmingham." And I was like, "Birmingham? Good clubs in Birmingham." So I went on with them, and whilst they're doing all their worship and everything, it wasn't an alien environment to me at all. It was a very common environment to me. I was terrified of going to hell. I grew up in the Billy Graham era, where and Mum took me to a Billy Graham conference, and if you didn't commit now, you could get run over by a bus tomorrow and you'd be going to hell. There was no love, there was no God wants a relationship with you. It was just, you're going to hell and it's going to be horrible, and so you need to not upset God. So that was where I was at. So I kept one foot in church. I kept praying because I didn't want to go to hell. That was my be all and end all, but there was no relationship in it. My mum and dad will tell you that I took friends to youth group and I wanted them to become believers because I didn't want them to go to hell either. Like everything was all based in complete fear and terror. So it was like, yeah, that's fine, I'll leave this on. And as I'm sitting there with my head down trying to look like I was praying so no one would talk to me, very clearly, how's your day been, Joe? And I looked up to sort of like, who's talking to me? No one was talking to me. There was no one. They were all singing with their hands in the air and what have you. So I was like, I just put my head down. How's your day been, Joe? And it came to mind the Bible story of Eli. And I said, I just thought, okay, I'll go with this if that's where we're at. So yeah, it's been okay, and had a conversation, which took me to a place that I have never been. That was the start of a journey, a big journey. That involved me giving up alcohol, making my way through 12 steps, and applying to do a diploma in youth and community work with theology through an organisation called Oasis in London. And it was basically me working out of a church part-time as a youth and community worker.
There was, I suppose, a culture that I was involved in with drinking and also with surfing. Like, I had a lot of mates that smoked a lot of dope. And obviously being 18 and having my licence, you couldn't drink and drive either. So, it was like I literally went cold turkey on that stuff. And it was in that kind of 12 months of being saved that it was coming up to Christmas time. I remember that I can't go away with the guys I usually go away with New Year's Eve because just be drinking. So I ended up going to a YWAM mission trip in the Gold Coast. So I went there for I think the week, and that was just an amazing time. And then learnt more about Surfers with a Mission. and got connected with those guys. And there was 2 chapters of Surfer with a Mission within YWAM at the time, and one was in Maui in Hawaii, and the other one was, I think, Newcastle in New South Wales. And being kind of, 18, 19, it was like, mate, I'll go to Maui any day of the week. So it kind of worked out that I finished my apprenticeship and got through it. And then kind of sold my motorbikes, to fund, the trip over. And then went over to Maui for 6 months. And then, so I ended up coming home for my 21st birthday. And then going straight back over and led a team to Fiji. So for a number of years, probably the late 90s, like I was in and out of Australia, mainly over in Hawaii. And I suppose the thing that I always had a sense for was, I suppose, helping people. And even when I suppose I was lost, and it was always around helping people, and that calling really grew like that within within YWAM, and I got back and was able to look in getting into youth work. So I was in youth work for a number of years with youth justice with a organisation called Concern Australia, and was a outreach worker for those guys for a number of years.
It was awful going from full-time work to a study wage. And I ended up so badly in debt. It was terrible. And I was carrying a lot of baggage from the lifestyle I'd led. But, throughout it all, God put people in my path that were going to keep an eye out for me, help me out. I worked in schools, did assemblies, did RE lessons, lunchtime clubs, which was great fun, and one of the best things I did in primary schools. Worked in high schools, stopped running youth groups because I couldn't get the staff and just managing them was too hard. So I did what we call detached youth work, and I just hung out on the estates with a council worker. But my health, although it improved, never got better. And a friend of mine said, hey, have you ever thought about travelling? I had a nasty car accident and had compensation from that. So I said, I'll have a look at it. She said, I've got friends at a church in Australia that, go and see, they work out of a youth sports centre, and they'd love, I've been telling them what we do here, and they'd love for you to go over and just almost like a consultant, but not. So like a sabbatical type thing. I said, I never wanted to go to Australia. They've got spiders there. I had horrific arachnophobia. I've just had an email from friends of mine that work out of Melbourne. Would you be interested in going over and seeing? Well, married up, and that was Concern Australia, which is where Brian worked.
I was in youth work for a number of years, and that was really cool. But always had that desire to be a fiery. I joined up at Narrowwarra North fire station as a volunteer. So through that time, I was able to connect with guys that served with my dad at Narrowwarra. And there was times of getting to know those guys and understanding who my dad was as a man, as a friend, as a fiery. I got work as a travel agent, which is what I trained in when I was in England. So I had income coming in and was able to work with the church brilliantly. It was amazing. Made some amazing friends who are still friends today. And then was like, okay, this 3 months is up. I can only work for 3 months on a travel visa. So let's next stop. Next stop was Melbourne. Told them I was coming. They arranged for someone to meet me from the airport. Flight was very late. Eventually bumped into the person that was picking me up from the airport. Who was told before he picked me up, make sure you get rid of all the plastic spiders that you have in your car to trick the kids, because she will lose the plot. And can I just add, Brad, that it was a fire brigade night, a Tuesday night, and I was late and I missed training. I was ropeable.
And obviously I met Brian there. and desperately wanted to go to the Rip Curl Surf Pro that was one of my bucket things to do. Sitting talking to a friend in the pub one night, and Brian overhears and goes, "Oh, I'll probably get you tickets to that if you like, because I'm with Christian Surfers and we always work there." No way, this is awesome. Then tells me about 3 days later, 3 days before we're going, I'm probably not going because a mate of mine's asked me to go shooting, and I'm at this point going, oh, I'd quite like you to come along. I've got to know you, and that would be quite nice to get to know you a bit more. And the rest, as they say, is history.
So it was probably 2 years, wasn't it? Because you went back home.
Yeah, I had to go back home because my visa ran out.
Yeah.
And then
so
I
had
was
a long distance relationship for
a long time.
Yeah, for a long time.
Just talking on Skype because Messenger wasn't around then, and it was all.
And I think
very
it was like it really cemented, like, I suppose, forced us to communicate. And I think it was like, did we go to
Phillip Island?
Phillip Island. They were there for
It was
their
on
family.
one of my trips back.
Yeah. And Billy just said, mate, like, you're marrying this girl. And I go, yeah, I am, aren't I?
And it was the same trip we were driving home.
Yeah.
And God said to me very clearly, this is the man that you'll spend the rest of your life with.
So I think you went back home.
Yeah.
And you're coming back over.
So I came back to find out what do we do next? And Brian met me at the airport and got down on one knee and said, don't have to worry about it now.
And throughout that time I had, ups and downs in my faith, because I was really, like my core, desire was to be a career fiery. Applied, I can't even remember what year it was, because there was a number of times I applied, and I missed out by 1 mark. I suppose, dealing with that over those years and going, well, what is it? This is the desire of my heart, what I want to do. I just can't feel that I get there. Or is it just, being a volunteer fiery, is that it for me? So I think it got to kind of 2013, 14, where I go, Lord, I'll give it up. Like I just, if this is, being a volunteer is good enough, and this is what you have for us, or for me, then I'm okay with that. And it was kind of not long after that, Joe goes, there's, an opportunity for, industrial fiery at the power station. So I applied, had nothing to lose, and ended up getting through, and ended up getting the job. My professional career as a industrial fiery firefighter in 17. And I suppose to where I am, today was a number of years ago, 3 years ago, an opportunity came up for the aviation fire at East Sale at the RAF base, and applied and got in there. So God's been faithful, through I suppose our lives, and getting together, and so I think that although we've had similar journeys, like it's certainly, once we got married, it's been a massive journey, and growth through even to this day, and with kids as well.
So we've got 4 girls. The eldest is about to turn 18, twins who are 15 and a half. And the youngest, who is about to turn 11 tomorrow, if you take her word for it, but it's not till October. The twins were born 12 weeks early and spent a lot of time in NICU and special care. Hannah has a physical disability and ADHD, and Gabby has autism, collects the letters, and was diagnosed with functional neurological disorder 8 months ago, something like that, 8 months ago. Amy, our eldest, has chronic fatigue from glandular fever, undiagnosed at the time. And so we've had an awful lot of medical challenges. Whenever I get another thing come, straight onto my Facebook Messenger group who are friends, and I just go, I need your prayer covering because I can't do this anymore. Knowing that you don't have to keep the prayer going on your own is huge. And I always remember when Moses had to have people hold his hands up. And they're my people holding my arms up, because sometimes it just gets to a point where you go, I don't want to do this anymore. And even in the last probably 6 weeks, where is that hope? It's gone. We're not seeing any breakthrough. We're just challenge after challenge after challenge in every single area of life. And my health and the kids' health, finance, timings, education, friendships, everything just all comes, where's the straw that's going to break the camel's back? Because it's coming. And where is that hope? I feel like we've lost a lot of hope. And, quick message out to a few friends, or friends will message me that haven't spoken to you from England for 12 months. How's it going? So, well, it's funny you should ask that. Well, what can I pray for? Well, actually, I just need some hope back. And it comes back. You get that suddenly you feel like you've turned a corner, and it's like, okay, we can keep going now. That nothing's changed. The situation hasn't changed. It's still as hard as it was before, but you're not fighting it alone. God's put people there to go, I know you can't pray right now, so here's someone to pray for you.
So it's around, being willing to, I suppose, stick your hand up and go, hey, I need prayer, but also going, hey, when someone's put on your heart, that you reach out or pray. And I think that is, just the community of God. So I think that, the hope is that, you're not alone, and you have the family of God behind you, and through, I suppose, all chapters of life. So us being at Sale is, a fairly new chapter. So I think that, when you look at, I suppose, time's not a thing for the Lord. So I think that fills you with hope when there is no hope. And I think that it's around, listening and understanding. So just, God's, love and faithfulness. I've certainly seen that through my life. And has it been easy? No. But I know that, if you trust in him, he's got it worked out, even if you don't. I suppose, mate, that's a bit of the journey.